He hadn't been married for a very, very long time, their lives. He had just graduated from college, and she had just graduated from college, and they planned the wedding, and they had an apartment in Evanston, and he had a job in the insurance industry, and she was a teacher. So when they were drafted, of course, everything kind of changed. The war was a very scary thing. The Vietnam War was a very scary thing for everybody because it was an undeclared war. We were in there by treaty. We were not in there because somebody had attacked us or we decided, that something terrible was going on. We went in there because we took over the position of France when they left, and we did this by treaty. But it was a terrible war, and people were kind of rebelling, not kind of rebelling, they were definitely rebelling at this point about being told to go over to what they considered an unjust war. I really wasn't very political at that time. I just kind of listened to the rhetoric of my family, so I thought, well, all these protesters, what is it they're really angry about? Well, I came to hear different sides. I was in college, and I have to say, again, I think it was a really stupid, senseless war. But then again, many wars are stupid and senseless. I don't think we made one bit of difference, and we lost so many lives, and we gained so many drug addicts.
I was drafted at the ripe age of 25, and I was known as the old man. I took basic training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and then I spent 6 months at Officer Candidates in Fort Benning, Georgia. All infantry, jumping out of airplanes, airborne, ranger, the whole 10 yards, scared to death, because I knew exactly where I was going. I was going to Vietnam. Half of them were killed. I saw them, on the wall in Washington. And you come very close going through what we call living hell for 6 months. They try and wash you out. They want you to fail, because if you pass and you get through it, then you're good officer material.
It was a bad time. People were scared to go, and people were forced to go. They didn't have a choice. You're in a much better position when you have a choice about whether you want to fight or you don't have a choice. But to be told, you know what, you might be a very gentle, peaceful person, you're going to go over and you're going to have to kill people, because if you don't, they're going to kill you. That's a whole different thing than I want to go over and defend this or do that. It's a whole different mindset.
We got our orders, and we all knew that we were going to Vietnam. Infantry, train, jungle, jumping out of airplanes, the whole 10 yards. And my orders read, headquarters USACOMSOR, and that was in Worms, Germany. And I got in line to call Jill and tell her that we weren't going to Vietnam, we were going to Germany. And I was going as an intelligence officer instead of an infantry officer. And the reason I became an intelligence officer was that they put in for a college graduate, English major, and a combat arm, and I was all three. Well, when I told her on the phone after standing in line for 45 minutes, she hung up on me and said, "You're lying." I had to get back in line, go all the way to the end of the line, go through another 45 minutes, and I finally said, "Don't you hang up on me. We are going to Europe," which we did.
So he said to me, I am going to, at this point, he was going to France. His first order said he was going to Orleans, France. And I said, don't, because I thought he was being silly. I thought he was making a joke because he's so funny. And I just got mad at him and said, this is not silly. You cannot make up a story and tell me that you're going to France. You just cannot. And so he had to hang up, and he had to go back and stand in line all over again and call me up and say, "Do not hang up the phone." I am really going to France. It was just, I mean, nobody got orders to go to France. And he didn't end up going to France because the headquarters in France at that time moved to Worms, Germany.
Tell her what you asked when they first gave you your orders. When you didn't know where.
I said, "Sir, where in Vietnam is that?"
You sir Kanzur, and he's like, "Where in Vietnam is that?"
And
he said, "Tell him what he made you do."
Give me 100 push-ups. He had to give 100 of them.
He had to do 100 push-ups because he didn't know that it was in Europe. He says it's in Germany.
We got over there, and I was met at the airport by a staff car from the headquarters, because we were in the headquarters. And I came back to the headquarters and met my sergeant major, my major, light colonel, and the full bird colonel, who was deputy chief of staff intelligence. And that was the beginning, and I found a house on what we called the Economy, because Joe wasn't allowed to be in government housing. So we lived with a German family who have become very fast friends of ours. They've been over here many times. We've been back to see them at the old house. Our first daughter was born there, Jennifer. Made a big mistake. She was born in Heidelberg. We should have named her Heidi, but we named her Jennifer anyway.
So then we got sent to Germany, and it was probably the best 2 years we've ever had. I mean, it was just wonderful. It was wonderful. We lived with a German family because I was not, they call it authorized. If I had been authorized, which meant that if the government had paid for my air trip over there and paid for our housing, he would have had to stay in another year and become a captain, and he definitely would have gone to Vietnam for that. That would have been 4 years. That's his 4th year. So luckily we knew that ahead of time, so we knew, so we lived with a German family who we just adored them. Hertle was the last name, Hertle, Walter and Irmgard. And then the girls were Sigrid and Ilse. Ilse was the youngest.
I granted the European clearances for security clearances for the European Command. I did counterintelligence. We did tech sweeps on meetings and what have you to find the bugs from the East Germans, which there were plenty. We tapped our telephone lines for security violations, sent one general home, sent a couple colonels home. We had a wonderful time over there. We really did. We made very, very close friends. We'd stayed in touch for quite some time. We have lost touch with most everybody now, except my sergeant major. But it was a wonderful experience.